Hey folks, it's Scott Simone. This morning, I'm gonna try and get some things done before it gets too hot. As you can see in the background, I got my buddies Airstream Interstate. They were preparing to go cross country. So last week, I took the bike out to Montauk, New York, and when I got back, I wanted to clean it. I wanted to throw it up on my Kern Stabi X518 lift. And what I came to find underneath was that I had lost one of the coupling pins. Uh, I actually had made an Allen bolt where I had ground down the head so that it would fit within the coupling point. So I went ahead and ordered two additional spare pins, and if you look, the part number on that is 518 PIN. Pretty intuitive. For folks that have an R18B with the Jekyll and Hyde exhaust system, you will need the X518-JH. Also pretty intuitive in terms of part numbers. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and install two pins now, rather than using my homemade guide. And we also have some blue Loctite. We're going to try and keep those pins inside the engine block. So I'm going to go ahead, get the X518 laid out, and then we're going to get underneath the vehicle and get those pins in place, and we'll put the stand up, and we'll just might as well go through it. Okay, so to keep these pins from, I guess, being lost in the future, I'm going to add a little Loctite. I'm going to use the blue color. I'm going to be mounting the pins here and here within the engine block. It's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to put a couple dabs of Loctite. I have a 13mm wrench. It's an open box wrench. Just going to put a couple dabs of blue Loctite. Don't need anything crazy, and I clean my bike often enough that I could check in on these pins periodically, just to make sure I still got them. So, by the way, these pins are really well made. Look like they're made out of stainless steel, really well machined. So I'm just going to go ahead and just thread that in with my fingertips. Go ahead and get the other side done. I got a 13mm wrench. I'm just going to go ahead and just tighten that up. Keep an eye on it. And we'll get the Kern Stabi in place. And all right. So we'll get the Kern Stabi mount in place, and we'll see how that lines up with these new pins versus the homemade Allen bolt that I was using as a secondary guide. All right, so just as a review, as you can see, I did remove the second brace, which was used for using a floor jack or some sort of lift. I'm going to go ahead and remove the front pin from the carriage. We're not going to need that. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hang the Jekyll and Hyde exhaust mount, which you can see right there, on the eyelet. And then I'm going to go ahead and line the coupling pins up with this first one. It actually has a coupling lock mechanism on it, as well as the second guide. So let's get this thing in place and get it going. All right, so I think this bike lift, it's super easy. It's one of the things I like about it. It's very simple to put in place. Stores pretty well in the garage. As you can see, I got everything lined up. All right, we got a nice solid fit there. All right, I'm gonna go to the other side. We'll go ahead and lift this bike. Might as well cover that. All right, so I'm gonna start with the rear wheel. Remember, we're gonna turn the handlebars all the way to the left. I'm going to go ahead and install the front part of the carriage, insert the pin, and then we'll lift up the front of the bike. And then I can get on there and I can start working on the bike. All right, so as you can see, it's fairly straightforward. This is not a hard system to put in place. It's pretty convenient. Out of everything that I've seen so far in the forums, this to me is the simplest, easiest, gives me a lot of flexibility. Plus, it also allows me to store my bike up during the off season if I like. So I figured this is a pretty good opportunity for folks that are looking to lift their bike up beyond what the X518 offers in terms of height. So far, I've been able to replace the engine oil, oil filter, transmission fluid, rear gear fluid without having to use my my floor jack that you see there in the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move that floor jack to the other side. I'm going to bring it around, set it up on the Kern Stabi. I'm going to go ahead and lift the bike. I have some suggestions. If you're going to lift the bike, when lowering the bike, especially with the Kern Stabi, you want to make sure that the cam or the wheels or the base of the X518 actually stay in place. You don't want them folding down. You lower the bike and then the bike winds up falling, you know, either to the right or left. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up and I'll walk you guys through it. Okay, so I got the bike ready. I'm going to go ahead and lift it. As you can see on the front wheel, I just ran a Thule strap through the front wheel, around the back of the Kern Stabi, the front carriage wheels. And that is when I lift the bike, the carriage wheels have a tendency to want to swing back. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those forward. And then, of course, the back, you want to make sure that they are also leaning in the forward direction. So what I'm talking about is I want these forward. I want this forward. You'll see when I lift it, it will have a tendency to want to swing back. It's just a simple Thule strap that I use for camping and whatnot. So as you can see, when I lift it, these wheels will want to have a tendency to go back. So when I lower it, that would swing back, not really provide the support that I want, causing the bike to maybe lean one way or the other. Same thing, when I lower the bike, I want to make sure that these are forward and not back. If they're back, the bike's going to come down flat and fall one way or the other. So my back is actually, the back wheels are actually pretty tight. So I can set them and leave them in place. So when I lower the bike, I'm going to lower it very slowly, okay? And even very slowly is going to be too fast, especially for a bike that weighs as much as it does. And even that, to me, is too fast. Again, lifting a bike is always problematic. There's always a little hazard there. There's always a chance. So again, I hope this helps. So far, again, for me, I've never had to lift the bike up in order to do any of the routine maintenance, whether it be the 6,000 mile maintenance or the annual maintenance. Now, replacing the air filter, oil, air filter, and then the transmission and rear gear fluid. So again, hope this helps.